This year, a Data Protection Act was passed into law in Jamaica. Now, all businesses must put IT solutions in place to protect the privacy of consumers and safeguard personal information. What does this mean for your small business going forward? I'm Khalila Reynolds, and it's time for another episode of Money Moves, JA, brought to you in partnership with Exim Bank's Business Advisory Service, giving you the tools to grow your business. CEO of T-Tech, Christopher Ruckert, is back to tell us more, and make sure you watch this video to the end because I have a giveaway. Okay, so we're back this week with Chris Ruckert from T-Tech, and Chris is going to be talking this week about the Data Protection Act. It's fairly new. So what is it and what does it mean for small businesses?
Globally, a number of countries have had legislation in place to protect people's personal data. And finally in Jamaica, we have just passed that law this year, 2020. And so the Data Protection Act, it has 8 standards as part of the act. I'm not going to go through all the standards, that's for my legal friends. But somewhere in the essence of it is that finally we have something in place in the country that you can now take legal steps if someone misuses your private data. So let's just talk in the context of you and your business. Mm-hmm. You require people to subscribe to whether it's a YouTube channel or your website or maybe a blog or something like that. I may give you information, so I was coming here to have an interview. I sent my information to your producer. How long is she going to keep my information for? What is she going to use the information for? Am I going to start getting emails inviting me to stuff that I didn't agree to come to? Am I going to start getting emails to start liking stuff on Instagram or Facebook? So the whole essence of the law is protecting you, the owner of this private data, my name, my image, my aliases, my date of birth, and all of these things, and who I give it to, how long they have it for, what they can use it for, when do you delete it from your system, and all of that. And also is, let's say the use of it. My specific focus around the DPA is Standard 7, and Standard 7 speaks to the protection that one has to put in place. Now that I've given you my data, how are you protecting that data so that nobody or any other bad actors come and get that data, right? First time in history that that we have a law in the country that is instructing you to put in technical processes and technical steps in place to protect that data once I've given it to you. So we looked to recently, me and my team, we looked to a number of the cases, especially out of the UK, in which the information officer. So by the way, the government still has steps to put in this regime in place. So whilst the law has been passed, there is a whole, there's an office, there's a commissioner, there's all of that needs to be set up in order to regulate or promulgate the law, so to speak. Because the minister has to say when the law is going to be enacted from, and we do have a 2-year window from he gives the date up until now. We need to have all the measures in place. So we do have time, but it's now to understand all of this. So we're just kind of starting very, very early up front in understanding what technical regulations that are needed and how these technical regulations need to be implemented, who is going to be doing it. So for example, one of the things that the law asks for is for companies of a certain size to have a data protection officer. Mm-hmm. And that data protection officer is a person in the organization that's responsible to ensuring that whatever private data you have in there, so you have staff, you have their private data.
What is the size? What size does that apply to?
I don't know the size as yet, because I actually don't think the size is actually outlined in there. I'll have to check
that's for bigger companies.
So, at the end of the day, the instant that you use, you have personal private data, whether for your staff or for customers, somebody has to be designated. You don't have to hire a separate person, but it can't be the IT person. because that's the person that's also, that the DPO is to hold accountable. So it can't be the same person.
Okay.
I can't be the person holding me accountable. But it's legally they kind of have to be separate. So which is why there are certain organizations out there now are poisoning themselves to say, well, okay, I can offer the service to small companies that not going to hire this person for themselves. So we T-Tech, we form a partnership with a company called Design Privacy. And Design Privacy, owned by attorney at law. And we have to make sure to say his first name properly because his first name is very long. And it's Chuku Emeka. We just call him Chuck. Chuck Cameron. And he has been a vocal person out there on data privacy and constitutional rights and all this for a very, very long time. And so we reached out to him. We just had a chance meeting at one of his favorite cafes. And we kept on booking up and we kept on talking about this thing. I was saying, you know what, let's see if we can make this thing work. So he's the expertise on the data privacy and data protection as a service, and I am on the IT compliance as a service. And so together we just recently had some discussions around, and we actually announced it at the Jamaica Computer Society event recently, where together we're going to be providing data protection as a service. So everything that the law requires, he's doing that legal data protection part. I am doing the IT compliance part.
All right. So you mentioned having a data protection officer. What are some of the other main guidelines, especially for small businesses?
Well, my main focus is around ensuring that we create the technical measures for the business. The business needs to ensure that the personal data is safe. That is the main thing. The business needs to communicate with whoever is giving them data, whether it's their staff or their customers, as to how long you're keeping this data for, what exactly you're using it for. And by the way, do you need all of this data to do that specific thing that you're asking me to do? Because how many of us have gotten these forms? They want your name, your address, where you're from, which company you used to work, the last 3 companies you work for, which high school you went to, all of this stuff. And the whole idea is, hold on there. All I'm here is to ask you for whether it's to attend a class or to buy, so whatever the activity that I'm here for or the product that I'm here to buy, do you need all of this data for that? Right? So the law now puts in the structure for you to actually question that. Because before you would question it, you just fill out the form and give the people information and they're gone. So the law puts in some boundaries around that. Law also puts boundaries around, as I mentioned, it's also a key component. How long do you keep this data for? So a little interesting situation. Let's say you have your producer and you have given her email address on your system. And she's employed to you and things are going hunky-dory. A year later, time for her to move on, but the email address that you gave her on your system is still being used. And you have somebody else now manning it, although it's maybe her name still, but that's what everybody knows, and everybody keeps sending information to it, and at some point in time, she can come back and say, hold on, I want, because maybe she's gone into the same business as you, I want all email that went to that email address since I've left the company. Legally, you have to give it to her.
Really?
Yes.
So you don't own the email address?
No, it's her email address.
But it's your business and you pay for it?
It's her email address.
I'm giving everybody generic email addresses. So you can email 1 at KalilaRemedia.com, 2, 3, 4.
Or you can have producer at KalilaRemedia.com.
Producer, assistant, producer 2.
But host, I'm sure
host 5.
I'm sure if you ask a lawyer, call somebody like Chuck or Kerry-Ann, they can tell you that, well, maybe that can work. But yes, I think that's once it's not connected to their name because, Janelle is Janelle and Kalila is Kalila. So, but those are just a few of the things that,
there's a 2-year transition as this takes. So
correct.
What can we do now to prepare for this eventuality when it comes into full effect?
So one of the things that we are doing right now and working with Design Privacy to also do is going in and doing assessments for companies, just kind of give them the gap analysis. To say, okay, we understand the law, we understand all the things it's going to take, let's see where you are, let's see what you have in place, let's see what you don't have in place. And there are a few advanced companies like my own, like T-Tech, because we do provide a service. We say, you know what? Let's go through the process first. Let's ensure that so we're bringing external third party out of Jamaica to do all our IT assessments. So we are shoring up all our systems. They were good before, but we want to take it to the next level of standard. So we're actually doing that now. 2, we've brought in design privacy to come in and do our something called a DPIA, a data privacy impact assessment. In other words, they're going to look at all the processes. So you may have a process where you hire people. Where is that data? Where is that form that you fill out for the application, for the name and the address and the blood type and the data? Where's all of that data being stored? And if the person leaves, do you then destroy it? Mm-hmm. How long after do you destroy it? How long after you get rid of that email address? Mm-hmm. Right? So you have an HR process, maybe you have a sales process to all your sponsors and all of those things. So there's a lot of things for us to think about as it relates to people's private data and this whole culture and mindset of privacy. And so the first thing that does is just kind of that gap analysis. Let me understand where I am. Let me understand how many processes I have. Let me understand where people's information enter my organization, how does it leave, and let me make sure that nobody can break in and steal it. Because the powers under that information commissioner, if we look to see what's happening in Europe and happening with other countries that have done this long before us, that commissioner answers to no one. That commissioner just looks at the business or gets a complaint. There's a British Airways case where cybersecurity attack, passengers' data were stolen, and the information commissioner just £20 million. That's the fine. So the maximum fine, and in Jamaica the maximum fine is 4% of your global revenue, up to 4%.
Revenue, not profit.
Revenue, 4% of your global revenue.
Thank you, Chris. You've given us a gold mine of information again, and people can, of course, look you up at T-Tech because your company offers solutions on these services, yeah? But before you go, you need to give us a question for our viewers so that they can win themselves a lovely prize from Exim Bank.
So I mentioned that there are a certain number of standards. I'm going to ask 2 questions. I said the number of standards that existed, and then I actually quoted one specific standard, that is the IT compliance, the protection. And so tell me how many standards, and also if you can remember which standard number that speaks to the IT protection.
And now here's a recap of Chris's main points.
You have a 2-year transition period to ensure you meet the DPA guidelines. You'll need to communicate with whoever is giving you data about the usage. Data must not be held for longer than necessary for the original purpose. And you'll need to assign someone specific at your business to advocate for the proper care and usage of customer data.
We live in a rapidly expanding digital world, and data has become an increasingly sensitive and protected resource. It's important that you take the steps to comply with the regulations to ensure that the privacy of your business and your customers are protected. That's it for this episode of Money Moves JA, brought to you in partnership with Exim Bank's Business Advisory Service, giving you the tools to grow your business. Visit their website, eximbankja.com. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Stay safe.